Basically, this character is the physical manifestation of the extreme mutation of depression, which is a mouthful. Hello, and welcome to May the Review Be With You with Nick and Joe. I'm Nick. Today I am solo hosting. Joe is out of town on vacation, traveling perhaps, or maybe he has found himself in a void. And if that is any indication, you already know what we're talking about here today. It is the MCU's Thunderbolts, which was just released a few days ago. Quite a movie. My goodness. I will have to start off by just saying, please go to the theater and watch this film. It was fantastic. There's a lot of chatter online that it might be a new addition to the top 10 all time from a Marvel perspective. That's a pretty big statement. Although I have a hard time not putting it in my top 10 at the moment. It's that good. This movie, guys, it felt like Avengers-esque. I honestly haven't had a feeling like this since the first Avengers film. The cast and just kind of how they like play off of each other and interact. The on-screen chemistry was excellent. Writing-wise, really solid storyline throughout. Just to kind of give you an overview or quick synopsis of the film. Basically, it's about an unconventional team of anti-heroes, including Yelena, Agent Walker, Taskmaster, although for like 5 minutes, Ghost, Winter Soldier, and Red Guardian. They're all thrust into a dangerous mission led by Valentina. They're tasked with like cleaning up her loose ends and shady businesses, including Bob, who is also a loose end, although unexpected. Basically, the Thunderbolts face a death trap and must confront their past while simultaneously dealing with Val's manipulation and her plan to unleash Bob, aka Sentry, on the anti-heroes. Things take a turn when Bob's depression kicks in and Sentry becomes a villainous void. So that sounds like a lot. If you're not familiar with the plot, there you go. Crazy amount of things going on in this film. Few fun, like, quick hits. We got an Avengers Tower appearance, which I wasn't expecting. Sentry was crazy powerful. At first, when this movie was like, before it came out, I was thinking, like, is this villain going to be like too powerful for like the heroes that we're supposed to be dealing with here? But the movie does a great job kind of like getting us on board with the outcome and what happens next. And essentially dealing with like a crazy powerful like superhero for a split second, but who also really has like a split personality because of depression and ends up becoming like a villainous void instead on the back half there. Really, really interesting character. Bob, who was played by Louis Pullman, just like a fantastic performance all around. Basically, this character is the physical manifestation of the extreme mutation of depression, which is a mouthful. But just truly like a crazy way for the MCU to basically tackle depression. Movie kicks off with Yelena basically being depressed and looking for fulfillment and not being fulfilled, and then kind of like kicks off from there, and we find out that Valentina is potentially being impeached and that Bucky is one of the congressmen trying to do that, and of course it doesn't completely work out that way. Also, the way that they portrayed the Void in this film, terrifying. Happy that it wasn't an end-all be-all, so hopefully Joe joins us back here at some point in the future. This film also gives off like a vibe for this next phase of Marvel. This might be the best film that they've released since Endgame. It really felt cohesive and fun and funny and well written, and also did a good job leaving some questions open and setting up what's going to happen next, basically. There's a extremely long post-credit scene. We get a mid-credit scene, which is just a kind of funny little scene with Red Guardian, but then the post-credit scene is like, I think 2.5+ minutes long, the longest post-credit scene we've ever had. Basically picks up 14 months after this movie originally ends, and we're dealing with like an extra dimensional ship entering orbit, and we find out that it's a Fantastic Four ship. So that's insane. Of course, we're all assuming it's the Fantastic Four that we're going to get to know here in this movie that comes out in a couple months. But as far as a post-credit scene, one of the cooler post-credit scenes we've probably ever gotten to set up like another thing that's coming next for Marvel. Marvel's at its best when it's using its post-credit scenes and then also following through on them. Of course, we on this podcast love post-credit scenes. You can check out our top 12 MCU post-credit scenes on YouTube or on our podcast network, and I'll link those in the show notes. But yeah, that was like a crazy, awesome way to end the film there. Just a couple other things from the movie in general that were really, really cool. The moment where all the anti-heroes, if you will, enter the void together to go save Bob. Just basically kind of like just a bunch of like shame rooms or like escape rooms, if you will, inside basically like Bob's mind. And we get like all these flashbacks to Bob's past and like get an idea for like why he is the way that he is. And really this like movie kind of pulls on your heart a little bit, like the emotional roller coaster of it, and the really upfrontness of the highs and lows of being in and out of like a depressive state. What a really interesting way to tackle that, honestly. Not sure many franchises could do that, and Marvel found a way to also make it work for them and make the movie, funny and entertaining, and just makes you fall in love with like all these characters. And essentially it's called Thunderbolts, but we know that that's like a placeholder now, and Valentina at the end makes it about her and how this was always her plan all along. And we get this new name of the new Avengers with a Z, which is the Red Guardian's little flair add to it. So it was quite ridiculous, as only the Red Guardian could be. Let's talk about Bob, aka Sentry, aka our villainous Void. We first find Bob in the basically this down in the bunker that Valentina sends all these anti-heroes to, and they're all kind of like fighting with each other, and somehow they end up triggering this for all intents and purposes like a coffin that ends up opening up. This is where Bob has been basically just stored, and we come to find out that Bob was like presumed dead. But obviously he survived the like testing that we find out later they were doing on him and many other people, trying to create like their own superhero, not even a super soldier, but just like somebody with every single power, basically, who can do anything. And the comedic relief here is so great because, Bob doesn't remember anything, and everyone else in that room is just, the tensions are so high, and they're just trying to figure out where the hell this guy came from and why he was like stored down here. And so, we that's when we first meet him, and as the story progresses, we find out more details about the testing that they did on him and what he became. But really, it's one of those examples of like the serum that they gave him just essentially manifesting how his personality was times 1,000. And Bob mentions this like earlier in the film, how like he gets in his really high moments, and then these really lows are really low. And we actually get to see that with his like split personality once he becomes Sentry, and has this like golden god-esque vibe. And then we get this like very low version of him, very dark, who is much more villainous. And this is like the quote-unquote Void character that he essentially splits into. And when this happens, Bob is basically like in his own mind, and like trapped basically. And this is when the anti-heroes have to like go get him out. One thing that bothered me that I didn't really think they clarified was, Valentina has like a kill switch that apparently, anyone that they were testing had been put in place. And her assistant like triggers this kill switch when Bob is Sentry and deciding not to listen to Valentina, and and he falls to the ground, and to Valentina's thought, like, dies because the kill switch like works. But moments later we see that like he kind of just turns all black, like into a shadow, and very soon after that, like, he rises up and is clearly not dead. And they didn't explain at all like why the kill switch didn't work. um so I felt like that was a little bit like of an open thing. They could have maybe threw us a bone and just kind of given us some kind of detail on what the reason for that not working is. Granted, very possible Valentina, obviously there's no way for them to know why it didn't work in that moment, because everything transpired so quickly, and the movie really from there ends like timeline wise probably an hour or two later after the battle and after they go into the void. So maybe that's something that we'll find out later on why the kill switch didn't work. That would be a cool little thing to get some more details on. But that was like the biggest thing, I think, honestly, that I thought of like in the theater watching it. But Bob, excellent character. Lewis Pullman played him beautifully, like having these like split personalities. Really just honestly an interesting villain for me. I almost wish they could have maybe expanded on the void situation, like, because when he becomes this villainous void, like all he really does is just engulf the city in the void. And I'm assuming like everyone goes into their own like worst moment memories, in there, unless they all go into Bob's world, which would be crazy. But we don't really know that. We just know that when the anti-heroes go into the void, they are essentially in Bob's mind. Leaves it open to interpretation on where the rest of the people of the city kind of went to. Yelena was also like one of the probably the lead character in the whole film. She really like drove it home. Florence Pugh did a fantastic job, really making you believe in the lack of fulfillment and searching for something bigger than herself. And really, she just wanted to be part of a team. I think that's something we can all relate to. So that was a really cool journey to kind of see Yelena go on. And the beginning of the film, she kind of like implies she wants to be in the spotlight, and by the end she's in the spotlight, and it's kind of like Valentina giving her a careful what you wish for situation. But of course, Yelena giving Valentina the whole statement on saying, basically the Thunderbolts own Valentina now because they know the real truth, and for whatever reason they decided not to out her in that moment. So that'll be interesting moving forward as well. Red Guardian, always a highlight for me. Guy's crazy. He's absolutely insane. Biggest comedic relief for sure. Agent Walker, poor man's Captain America. Did not hate him as much as I have in the past MCU shows. So kudos to the writers here for making me hate him less. And now he's a part of the team. So I think part of that was they kind of humanized him a little bit, like with the storyline, finding out that his wife and daughter like left him basically, and so maybe try to make him more likable on that front. We got Ghost back finally, which was freaking badass. Like, have not seen Ghost in many films, so that's really cool that that she's back in the fold here in the MCU. Exciting. Bucky is probably one of my top 5 characters of all time, so getting like a film with like tons of Bucky appearances and getting to see the Winter Soldier in action, fantastic. I still have so many questions about him putting his arm in a dishwasher. I would love for Rocket to witness that. That would be one of the funniest things that Rocket probably would ever see, Bucky cleaning his arm in a dishwasher. So maybe the MCU will give us that that moment one day down the line. Quite ridiculous. But yeah, Bucky, of course, plays a congressman, although it turns out I guess he's not a congressman for very long. Halfway through the film, he's back to being a superhero here, and it's just what he does best. So it's also funny that at the end of the film we find out that they're basically the new Avengers, but that also when the extra dimensional ship or Fantastic Four ship enters, it sounds like Sam Wilson's trying to gather a new group of Avengers, and so we're not sure who the real Avengers are at the moment. I'm assuming it's going to be the new Avengers, and then also whoever Sam puts together will probably end up being one big team. But right now, there's a little bit of it seemed like animosity between Pucky and Sam, was not being honest with each other about who the real Avengers are. So that might be, maybe we'll get a new Avengers versus real Avengers movie, or a little spin-off Christmas special. That'd be great. But new Avengers, tons of new questions. Fantastic Four are coming. Insane film. Might be a top 10 film all time, which is a big statement, but you're going to have to decide for yourself. Please go see it in theaters. It's awesome. Let me know what you think in the comments. And find us on Threads. We're talking about Thunderbolts. We'll be talking about Andor. Let me know in the comments what you think about Thunderbolts if you've seen it. Subscribe if you can. Looking ahead, May 12th, we've got our Ozfest releasing, so keep a lookout for that. Joe should be back for Ozfest from The Void. I think we're going to go get him. Yeah, until next time, may the review be with you. Peace, y'all.